Wind pushed through the cracked shutters of Widdershins Manor, and the foggy Derry Valley lay quiet below. Mary walked with a steady gaze, maps rustling in her canvas neckband. Alastair stood broad and ready, scuffed aviator goggles riding above his eyes. Jade adjusted a green thread bandana with tiny bread icons, her ink-stained primaries neat, and her taped right foot set firm. She offered an encouraging honk that bounced down the corridor. They had been sent by the Valley Dairy Guild to check rumors that all milk was turning green. Mary said their migration maps depended on the Valley's hospitality and clean milk stations for goslings. Alastair agreed about duty, then added that it still sounded like a publicity stunt. Jade tapped her taped foot and wrote notes. Haunted mansion. Dairy pipes. Probable culprits. In the grand hall, patched portraits and a ceiling mural showed the Great Pillow Siege, a battle fought only with pillows. Mary admired the mural and said the Valley once chose softness over harm. Alastair said a feather pillow still hit hard when it caught the beak. Jade laughed and sketched cushions like organized clouds of strategy. Deeper in, they met Dr. Tommy DeLuca III, a burnt sienna lemur in an embroidered velvet cape with a neon trim podcast headset and mic. His glossy ringed tail was combed perfectly, and his posture turned the corridor into a stage. Beside him stood Mr. Clankerton, squinting with a patched satchel full of rattling cables, and Harpo, fidgeting under an oversized beanie with a treetop talkcast patch. Their presence made the air feel wired and watchful. Dr. Tommy declared the world had ignored his genius podcast for too long, and that everyone would be forced to listen and admit it was good. He said conversion followed visibility, and visibility followed spectacle. Harpo said a little shock improved metrics, and Clankerton added that pushing a button cost less than billboards. Their confidence sounded like a countdown. They explained their plan with smug certainty. The mansion's haunted dairy pipes had been wired to a mixing console so that ectoplasmic dye, triggered by broadcast frequencies, would tint all milk green. Dr. Tommy pointed at the gauges and said the needle was influence. Clankerton said the release would sync with a push notification, and Harpo said breakfasts and cappuccinos would be ruined until everyone declared the treetop talkcast good. Mary stepped forward and said none of them had the right to manipulate food or the community. Dr. Tommy twirled his mic cable and demanded they say his podcast was good. Alastair lifted his head and said no, and Jade added cheerfully that the audio quality was mid. In the adjoining salon, a cafe counter flickered into being as tuber-cred Buffalo, Stan and Trevor raised milk pitchers for latte art duel. The cafe's ghosts floated cue cards for a bingo night later, and whispers spread that last week's winner had used an invisible ink dauber on the free space. Jade wrote bingo scandal in bold as a reminder, knowing gossip could hide clues. Harpo tried to block their view with his tail, and Mary quietly mapped the largest pipe's route. Alastair argued with Dr. Tommy that cereal was not soup because soup had to be warm, while the ghosts refused to applaud the claim that cereal was cold soup. Clankerton threw a letter, and a grinding hum rolled through the floors as the house lights shifted green. In the pantry, clear jars of travelers' milk blushed neon and then glowed, the air turning metallic sweet. The lemurs broadcast a jingle declaring the podcast good. Good, good. Guests coughed and spilled tea as the color spread. Dr. Tommy herded the geese into a mirror corridor lined with framed posters for his episodes. He said to say it was good and he would spare the milk. Mary answered that it was harmful and wrong. Alastair said to turn it off, and Jade said each mirror made his mic look crooked. Harpo spun faders, and lime pulses chased the dye through the pipes. They tried a hunk jam, forming a chord to scramble the airwaves. Jade called counts, Alastair matched pitch, and Mary aimed for the console's frequency. Clankerton sneered and pressed a button that ducked their range. Their honk rebounded through the pipes and amplified the green churn instead of stopping it. The fallout came fast and sticky. Milk fountains in the ballroom bubbled like swamp springs, and a tray of pastries turned a mean green. Ghosts fled the kitchen with indignation, clutching scratched bingo cards. Dr. Tommy said public perception was ripening like an avocado under a heat lamp. In the cafe, the latte art duel escalated. Stan poured a bold buffalo silhouette with a tail flourish, and Trevor answered with heart-shaped nose-ring detail, drawing ooze from ghosts. Mary asked for help reaching the main valves. Stan refused, saying only the official judge's ruling could end the rivalry and free them to assist. Jade searched for the judge and learned it was Mary Lou, a brick-red buffalo who ran fairness like a religion. Mary Lou was missing, and whispers tied it to the bingo scandal. Alastair said without a judge the buffalo would not join, leaving them without strength and steam skills to handle haunted dairy pressure. The impasse deepened the crisis. Hopelessness set in as green seeped everywhere. Mary's steady gaze faltered while she watched churning gauges and thought of goslings expecting white milk at stopovers. Jade retaped her foot and said her notes felt useless against a broadcast. The mansion groaned under pressure. Tension cracked their unity. Alastair insisted cereal could not be soup because soup needed warmth and intention, demanding Mary agree now. Mary said cereal was soup, not warmed, and that definitions changed over time. Jade groaned that they were arguing while the mansion sloshed like a broken aquarium. Jade noticed a scuff mark on a trapdoor beneath the bingo stage and pulled it open. Mary Lou huffed below, tangled in bunting printed with B, I, N, G, and O. Furious that someone had hidden G52 and locked her into delay judging, Mary called down that they would fix the scandal. She begged Mary Lou to judge the duel so the buffalo could join and help stop the milk disaster. Mary and Jade followed a trail of smudged ink to Mr. Clangerton's satchel and pulled out the missing G52 ball streaked with ectoplasmic dye. Alastair presented it to the ghosts while Jade announced the scandal resolved, with audits for the free space and no invisible daubers allowed. Mary Lou emerged and judged Stan and Trevor a tie, saying both poured brick-red buffalo spirit with equal heart. The tie allowed the rivalry to rest so they could help the geese. Quick interlude. Like, subscribe, and comment the word slop to help the story fly to more listeners. Your support keeps the haunted pipes quiet and the milk clear. Drop slop in the comments and join the investigation. They finalized recruitment in the kitchen corridor toward the boiler rooms. Stan said he could wield steam wands that squealed at a perfect kazoo pitch, and Trevor said he could froth in harmonics to cut through walls. Mr. Wiggle Woggle boomed he could shoulder valves, and Mary Lou promised to read gauges with exact fairness. Unnoticed, a human Italian pizza chef calmly tossed dough into a spinning halo, flour drifting like snow, then vanished. Mary explained the plan while Jade wrote it twice. She said the lemurs lost focus when they heard kazoo music, because a child ghost's earlier practice had made Dr. Tommy stumble, so they would replace the honk jam with a phone kazoo chorus. Alastair agreed to call counts. The buffalo would shape steam patterns, and Jade would map the G52 dye pipe so Mr. Wiggle Woggle could wrench it shut under Mary Lou's supervision. The approach fit each person's strengths. They moved like a determined parade into the north wing where the main manifold throbbed behind iron grates. Mary led with maps while Alastair timed their advance, the brass compass charm catching light. Jade handed out rolls, and Stan and Trevor tested steam wands that sang a distinct kazoo tone. Mr. Wiggle Woggle tested his footing on slick tiles. At the control room door, Harpo tapped nervously while Clankerton tightened his watch chain against the console. Dr. Tommy shouted that dissenters were jealous and ordered the pump speed up 2 notches. The kazoo chorus began thin, and the lemurs blinked as if dust had landed in their eyes. The standoff sharpened into action. Dr. Tommy screamed to turn it down, but the buffalo layered harmonics. Alastair called counts, Jade flashed signals with inked feathers, and Mary lined pipe labels against her map. Harpo flailed at his ears and kept missing, and Clankerton unplugged his own meter by mistake. The kazoo chorus grew strong. They pushed into a tiled galley where kazoo notes ricocheted in the hard air. Dr. Tommy lunged at a cutoff switch and missed as Mr. Wiggle Woggle bumped the panel with a careful shoulder. Jade read manifold tags and said the dye line hid behind a mislabeled lamp cord. The path to the true feed opened. Mary spotted B-I-N G and O stamps burned into manifold plates, relics of the bingo hall's old numbering. She realized the scandal had shown which letter groups were swapped. G52 meant the die tank fed the third subpipe from the left, not the right. She called it calmly, and Mr. Wigglewoggle locked horns and turned the correct valve with a grunt. Precision cut the flow at its source. A dry clunk marked the turning point as the die gauge fell. Stan and Trevor poured power into the kazoo chorus, hitting a frequency that tangled Dr. Tommy's focus until he babbled about soup and then stopped. Harpo froze in a sideways glance toward his leader. Plankerton snapped his watch chain in frustration as green dwindled. Dr. Tommy ordered maximum broadcast power and shouted that anyone who drank green milk had to admit the show was good. Alistair stood confident and said the community would never reward harm. Jade called for one more kazoo blast as ghosts rattled chains to an encouraging beat. The monologue dissolved into static under the chorus. The feet landed cleanly. Pumps shuddered to a stop. The die tank read empty, and milk cleared to friendly white in the glass tubes. Ghostly ushers glided in and cuffed Dr. Tommy, Mr. Clankerton, and Harpo. They would scrub dye from slate floors as community service under watch. With the pumps quiet, they began to undo the damage. Mary Lou checked every gauge. Mary traced routes for a fresh flush, and Mr. Wigglewoggle opened the main wash valves with careful strength. Buffalo foam washed the residue away. The air smelled like dairy and linen again instead of dye and ego. The bingo scandal helped once more. Using the B-I-N-G-O plates as a fairness checklist, Jade verified each pipe's integrity while ghosts cheered and promised transparent cards forever. The cafe opened for clean tasting, and cups of white milk lined the counter like a parade of moons. Com returned to the cafe. In the ballroom, the community laughed off tension by reenacting the Great Pillow Siege with mounds of clean foam. Children squealed and ghosts swooped, careful not to hit too hard. Stan poured a latte art buffalo with a small pillow balanced on its back. Trevor smiled without competing, as if truce tasted better than victory. Mary and Alistair returned to their cereal argument with less heat. Mary said cereal could be soup when the heart warmed even if the bowl did not. Alistair said warmth could be about intent, not temperature. Jade said sharing breakfast without dye was what mattered most. The mansion changed in gentle ways. The radio room returned to the community for kind stories and local music, and the Buffalo ran an inclusive cafe where everyone got a turn at the pitcher. Bingo nights resumed with numbered balls locked in a transparent drum and daubers tested against invisible tricks. Trust settled back into place. The lemurs faced full consequences without sympathy. Evicted from the control room and banned from dairy equipment, they were ordered to host an educational podcast on pipe safety under ghost moderation, each episode starting with a public apology. Mr. Clankerton sighed through it, Harpo fidgeted under supervision, and Dr. Tommy's grand posture shrank under the same neon headset that no longer gave him power. The balance felt fair. When quiet returned, Mary rolled up her maps and Alistair's compass charm caught a wink of window light. Jay tucked her notes, adjusted the tape on her foot, and gave a bright, encouraging honk like a closing chapter. Outside, Witterson's manor watched over a valley of normal milk and honest gains. The three geese took wing toward the next place their responsibility would call them. All the slop in this video was generated using AI. This notice is informational. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment the word slop.